Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. Today video is a part of data management in Microsoft Excel. This video will help you to understand data validation using dynamic drop-down lists, sorting data in tables, and using advanced data filter. All of these elements work together to help you advance your skills from beginner to advanced in data management. You can find more videos about Microsoft Excel in my channel playlist and check your right corner of the screen. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, like, put in comments for any inquiry. In our previous video, we briefly touched on data validation, but as we are dealing with the data management, I think we should have a data validation separate video. Data validation is a feature that restricts user input as the person responsible for a workbook. You may often want to control other users' inputs to make sure all data entries are accurate and consistent. That's where data validation comes into play, as you can create validation rules that controls what kind of data can be entered in certain cell. Some example of that you can do with data validation are: allow data entries of a specific length, allow only numeric or text values in a cell, show an input message when the user selects a cell, show a warning message when incorrect data has been entered, restrict dates and times outside a given range, and much more. So how do we apply data validation? Let's use this example table to illustrate the process. Let's use this example table to illustrate the process. Let's use the process ID, select all the cells in the field, then go to data tab, data tools, and click the data validation button. Alternatively, you can open data validation directly by using Alt+D+L in your keyboard. Just make sure to click them separately, not together. The first step is to define the criteria for validation. Let's do an example to make a rule for purchase ID that restricts users to enter a 4-digit number between 1000 to 9999. To do this, in settings we will select the option for whole number in data, choose between, and then enter 1000 and 9999 as the range. Now that the rule is configured, we can click OK or move to another tab to create instructions or an error message for the user. Let's do that. Select input message. This will allow us to display message to the users with instruction or explanations. Make sure show input message when cell is selected is checked, and OK as the title where enter instructions or any other title you may prepare. Now for the message, enter a 4-digit number from 1000 to 9999. Okay, now let's go to error alert. Here we have 3 different options: stop, which prevents users from entering invalid data; warning, which warns the user the data is invalid but doesn't prevent entering it; and information, which only informs user about an invalid data. For our purpose, let's use stop as title. Let's use invalid entry, and for message a 4-digit number from 1000 to 9999 is required. Now click OK. We can see that when one of the cell of the field is selected, if display already the message with instructions. I will try to enter a new record directly in the table, so I will go to the next empty row under the table, and I will simply enter 2-digit click tab. Well, we are getting the error message that also prevent us from creating the record with wrong data. Now I will try again, but this time using a combination of letters and numbers to see if we can cheat. How about if we try with the entry form? I will select a cell in the table, then launch the entry form. Okay, we'll enter a wrong ID, press tab, then continue to fill the form. Once done, click enter and we'll get the error message. You can see one limitation here is that we only get information about the role until after we try to submit the form. It's not too bad, but we need to keep in mind. Okay, there are many different possibilities you can explore about how to integrate data validation in your table. More you can control and qualify of the data at the time of entry, the more reliable data you will have to work with and analyze. Drop-down lists not only look cool and speed up data entry processes, but they also help users to reduce the possibility of errors and improves the accuracy of the data during the input process. If we don't set them up right, they can become a nuisance to maintain. There are different methods to work with the drop downs, so I will focus on two. The most basic one, which may serve many scenarios when you don't expect the options to chosen from to change in time, and another one that takes advantage of Excel's tables to generate a dynamic version that can automatically adapt when new criteria or options are added. To illustrate this, we use our practice table. I am going to add a new field, and to do this I simply select the first available column, then type store and click enter. Now select the cells in the field and click on data validation in the data tab as validation criteria. Let's select list in source. We list all those stores available for this range. For example, we can type online, west, east, all separated by a comma and a space. As input message title, we can use something like store selection and then add the message select a store from the list. For error alert, to ensure that only an item from our list is selected, we can add invalid entry as the title and with a friendly message to try again. Now click OK to close the data validation dialog box, and let's test what we did as we navigate. Though the cells, you can see that message is available already and a drop down list selector is added to each cell. I can click on the cells and select the store from the list of options available. It's very simple. If I try to enter something different, Excel will give me an error with the message we prepared before. If I add a new record entry, I will be asked to select a store. So this is the basic method to add drop down for data selection. It's look good. What can be wrong with it? Well, nothing really, but it works great as long as the options in the list don't change, or at least not too often. For example, imagine that new stores are added frequently. You will need to be attended to this and come and manually add the stores as they become available. Or how about if we use this method for the product field? There is a good chance that you may be adding or even changing products constantly. Managing the drop down will be a constant pain. So for those occasions when there's a chance that options may change in the long run, it's better to use dynamic drop down with the validation. For this, I will be using product field to illustrate this method. The first thing we need to do is to create a separate table containing our list of stores. Now many Excel users like to have this validation list in the same worksheet as the main table, and there's really no real problem with that. However, as personal preference, I like to keep my main worksheet clean and set separate worksheets for other tables. I will be creating reference to and from. I took the liberty to create in advance a worksheet called product. It could be any name really, and as we have done before, I will create a separate vertical view so we can see both tables side by side. The list is currently just a regular range, so to make it dynamic I will turn it into a table. So as you know, it's Control T in the keyboard, and make sure my table has header is selected too. Automatically Excel assign a table style. Okay, next I will change the name of the table. In the case I will use product underscore table. Now I will go back to my main table and select the cells in the product field, then go to data and choose data validation. Just like before in settings, I will select list from the drop down list. This time instead of typing the list of validation criteria in the source field, directly we will click in the rectangle bar on the right, and you will see that your cursor has now changed to a cross. Move to the validation list and select the cell of your table. As you can see in the data validation source, it is now referring to our table on the list and click OK and try it out. Now you can see a drop down list that is being fed from our separate validation list to make things a little more interesting. For those using Excel Office 365, this process will get you ready to go, meaning that any new product added to the validation list will be automatically updated in the drop down. However, if you run into problems, if you are using the version of Excel, we need to do a couple of adjustments. For example, looking to be more compatible with everyone in the course, I decided it's time to use Excel 2016, and as such we need a couple of extra steps for those not using Excel 365. Select a cell outside your table and type equals and select the cells in the product sheet. Now we can see the structure reference from our table making obvious the name of the table and the name of the field header. Copy this formula, delete it from the cell, and let's go back to our main table. So I am going to select the cell in the product field, open data validation, and I am going to replace the original source for the formula we copied. Now what little problem or step we need to fix the data validation in our version of Excel does not like the table reference in style directly in here, as it recognizes it as a text only. The way around it is to use the indirect function, which basically turns a text into an address, which in this case translate what was perceived by data validation as text into a structure reference. Okay, now click OK. Now we can see that drop down functionality is there, but if we add more products in the validation list, this will be updated in our main table for user selection too. That makes this very easy to manage, as we only need to update our validation table. If at some point we decide that we are not selling pens anymore, simply delete the record, and in the same way adding pencil, if we want to sell pencil, it will be taken out or in of the main table too. As you can see, this is a very powerful method that we can use in pretty much all our fields. To have better control over the data entry process, please dedicate time to practice, explore the options, and familiar with the data validation. Click OK. Now we can see that drop down functionality is there, but if we add more products in the validation list, this will be updated in our main table for user selection too. Sorting is one of the most common tools for data management in Excel. Using table empowers the functionality, as it comes already embedded in the table, and you can use it to sort by one or more columns or fields, by ascending or descending order, by color, and more. For our previous video, 2 minutes Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Excel full foundation course, you can watch the basic of how to use the default criteria already in Excel this item. We look into how to create our own custom sorting criteria, sometimes business rules or some properties that are inherent to your data requires a short order that Excel cannot handle, or at least not without a little help. For example, in our table, let's assume that I would like to sort by store and by country, so I can identify what store sold products to which country. It sounds like an easy task, and I will simply select the sort and filter drop down next to the store field. Now I want the countries sorted A to Z, but also need them sorted by store. Technically, I could add a new label. This means that the table will be sorted by store first and then by what I select here, in this case country, and both in alphabetical order. By clicking OK, I can see the result. But what if for a strategic purposes or corporate practice, I would like to sort by store and by country, but the latter in a very specific way, that is not a to Z or Z to A. To achieve this, let's go back to the sort and filter drop down. Go to the custom sort. In the first label, the one for country, go to the order drop down. As safe, we don't want alphabetical sorting, so we are going to create our own list for this select custom list. Here we can see some available options, but we will create our own. By default on custom list, new list is selected. In the list entries field, I am going to enter the order. I need for example by region, Canada, Australia, Bangladesh, Mexico, United States, and Germany, and click on add, then OK. Now the table is sorted the way we want it, creating our custom list for sorting. It's very easy. As you can see, it may become one of your preferred methods for simple data manipulation. There you go. Hope this will be helpful in your work. Remember to keep practicing to get more and more familiar with these tools. Filtering is another standard tool in data management and manipulation. You can check my top side of my screen for Microsoft Excel full foundation course. We learn how to use Excel's inbuilt filtering capabilities. In this video, we are taking one step further. As a valuable tool for data organization and preparation for easier read and analysis, we are going to look into Excel's advanced filter. So we have our small data set here, but imagine that the table goes for hundreds of entries. What we want to do is filter this data set based on a specific criteria, and I want to copy it to another tab, which is the filter result. The criteria we want to use in this example is 10th March 2021, so that is the criteria we will use for filtering, just as we did before. Instead of adding the criteria in the same worksheet where we have our table or dataset, I will use our criteria list tab or query, as we could call it, to make sure I have the exact spelling. I am going to copy and paste the criteria. The first is that data should be greater or equal to 10th March, and the second criteria is that product should include superglue, the word superglue. If we had a longer and more complex table with different types of superglue, it will be valuable to use wildcards. So I will show you how to use it so you can apply it in your own work. A wildcard is a special character represented by asterisks that let us perform matching on text. For example, if we have superglue from different companies in the table, they will probably have more descriptive names on each. So if we add an asterisk before the word superglue and another after, it will guarantee that any field including the word superglue on it will appear in our filtering. Okay, if we wanted to add more criteria, you could continue this part and add more fields and records. Now, because we want the result copied to another tab, we need to start the advanced filter process on it. Meaning, on the worksheet we want the result on, so always start advanced filter from the place you want the result to appear. Then go to the data tab, sort and filter, click on advanced. As action, select copy to another location. Our list range is the original dataset or table, so go to it and make sure to select all including the header. This table is not too big, but if yours is longer, you could use Ctrl plus Shift plus down to include the whole set. Criteria range is the criteria we just defined. Again, make sure to include headers. We want to copy the data in this worksheet starting in D6. So now click OK. Our filtered data is copied to our worksheet and it's ready for analysis or review. What do you think? A very powerful filtering method that you can add to your Excel toolkit right now. Play with it, try using your own table or datasets, and keep it at hand for your next work.